Greetings, love tubers. Welcome to a new day. Happy Booby Tuesday, by the way. All right, let's talk about it because it's all over the internet. Well, that's not the reason why, really. The reason is the song message. I have a different. Well, just to tell you a little background, honestly, I didn't know who Tom or Ben was 2 days ago, quite frankly. And the only reason I scrolled upon their video is somebody was doing an Ice Spice reaction. I said, let me go look at this Ice Spice video. I want to see what placement it is on as far as trending music. So I go over Ice Spice, Think You to Fart, is number 4. Megan Thee Stallion, Hiss is number 1. Bigfoot by Nicki Minaj is number 2 on trending music. And I get to 3 and I see these 2 Caucasian males. I said, oh, well, who in the world are they? They're number 3 on the list. I heard they've been number 1 since then, but on the list when I looked 2 days ago on YouTube, they were number 3. So I go and I listen to the song called Facts. It was 2 men. I learned later it was Ben with the Facts shirt on, and Tom is the one with. Ben's a little. I guess the terminology used would be conservative, and then between the two, Tom has a little bit more spice in him. That's what I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it spice. I said, okay, I'm gonna listen to this song. I listened to the song. It was my first time. I hadn't heard anything about it before. And I did leave them some notes on their video from the song because parts of it stuck with me. And then things that I learned later afterwards, because once you click on something on YouTube, the algorithm starts to bring you automatically things pertaining to things that you have hit like or click or you've left a message or comment for. So, okay. So I found out about them on February 5th at 5:20 a.m. I am a new subscriber. I have taken a lot of notes since then, since listening to this song. Okay. So I'm just gonna go to my notes real quick, and then I'm gonna share with you my perspective. Now, what I will say is that both of these young men are very talented and skilled. I've not ever listened to any of their other songs. This was just my first song, quite honestly. Like I said, I never heard of them before. And let's see. That's what I'm looking for. I was wondering. Okay, there we go. So in the song, I don't know if you've had a chance to hear it. They are calling, well, they may think they are. They may think that they're saying something to the record company labels. I want you to keep in mind when I go over these notes that as an African American female, I have to look at things in society in this wonderful world of illusion from a different perspective and viewpoint. Okay? So I do realize that this is my avatar while I'm here on Earth. Okay? And so I've got a full figured chocolate, 5'2", dreadlock by choice, avatar while I'm here on Earth as my mode of transportation for ball voyaging while here on this planet. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. But in reality, humanity, meaning humane, which means beyond my color, beyond my shape, beyond my size, beyond my height, beyond whatever. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I am human. Even if in my past, happy Black History Month, I have not been viewed as human by the oppressed. I'm still human. Even if folks my color, I'm getting somewhere. When they look at me and don't want to be in my presence or don't view me as human, at the end of the day, I'm still human. I am still part of humanity. So we're going to start there. We're going to keep something in mind, and then I'm going to go through these lovely notes real quick. Now, I learned by Pimpin' Ken. If you haven't read that book, the 48 Laws of Pimpin', you need to read that book. And I put this when I had, don't judge it yet, that book is awesome. You need to know the rules of the game. It's a pimp and hoe game all day long, okay? So the people who did the video on their way to freedom from their slavery, to having the number one, I believe they're number one now, utilizing African American culture in regards to rap, are going from hoes and graduating to being pimps. Awesome. I listened to Jordan B. Peterson's notes. His concept is one from the Christian religion, heathens, sinners. Let me read the book of Revelations to you in regards to the whore of Babylon. I'm not Hebrew. That's not my book. When my folks was brought over on the ship and whooped and beaten and starved. And certain words you can't use on YouTube. So I'm going to say taken advantage of, or they jumped overboard and came over and was brainwashed from their own culture before colonization happened, where they had no concept of their religion or their culture, because they were browbeaten, not allowed to read, not allowed to talk, and hung. Happy Black History Month. Yeah, that's y'all man-made concoction. I'm going to let you keep. I'm not inviting myself to that party. I'm gonna let you keep your man-made concoctions. Okay? So this is the avatar. I'm not going to buy into the brainwashing. I'm not going to perceive myself as less than whole. Okay? Humanity. No race, no colorism, no gender, no age, no sexuality, no disability, no religion, no rules, no categories equals no war. This is simply my avatar. Now, Mr. Peterson, Dr. Peterson, I believe he's a psychologist, talked really fast. I used to work in the medical field. So they have their own terminology, and he used some really big words for that lovely video that was about 50 minutes that he did. And those words, unless you study them or go look them up or you have been in the field, might have went over a few people's heads. Okay? So this is a world of illusion. They just make stuff up as they go. We are in a matrix, and you are the Alex or the Alex in your wonderland. And all those labels that I just gave, race, colorism, gender, age, sexuality, disability, religion, rules, categories, they are all for the purpose of division, not being on one accord, and war. They are all to keep you distracted from your focus on what you're supposed to be doing here in this realm, in this world, in this dimension, to keep you from getting to those other lovely dimensions that Dr. Peterson was talking about, like the fifth dimension. Okay? He referenced the word pride a few times. I had to have a discussion because recently I have been riding the bus for the past few months, or catching Lyft or Uber, getting into society. And if you ride the bus in certain neighborhoods, which I have learned because it had been like since I was 18, it's a long time ago, since I rode the bus. In certain neighborhoods, it's all nice and clean and respectful, and everything's picked up, and there's trash cans, and you throw things in the trash can. Nobody's stealing the trash can. And then you come to the other side of town, and you look around you, and you say, why at the bus stop is there trash all over the ground? All over the ground. There's no trash can to put it in. It's like people didn't care about that part of town, and they just let it be what it was. But you have some people who still can see and smell the rose, the only rose left on the tree in the middle of the trash. The answer is pride. They have none. To just hold on to whatever it is until they get to a trash can. It's the reason why people are throwing trash out of cars. People, because I worked at the toy store next to the L, it's why people would toss bottles out their window or throw the trash on the ground instead of walking 50 feet maybe to get to the trash can. Pride. Do not underestimate the importance of having pride. They like to downplay pride. He talked about, and we're going to get into that here in a minute, the flag, the Black Lives Matter, and then also the rainbow flag, Mr. Peterson did, in regards to his explanation. Well, I'm just going to quote from that wonderful storytelling Bible that they talked about. Well, after the Noah flood in the Bible, God said it was never, they said, God said, because God didn't write that book, man made that book, that it was never going to rain again, where it would flood the earth in the manner that it flooded it. So, which is a lie. It's a lie. So if the rainbow, and then the rainbow showed after 40 days and 40 nights. There's some serious spell casting going on here. So if the rainbow is the meaning of that's not going to happen again, that is supposed to be a positive symbol. Okay? So in the song, where we go back, you don't want the Black Lives Matter. You don't want the rainbow. And you don't want a woman to have control over her own body. It's all about control. The bottom line is control. You want control. So the rainbow, first of all, we're not going back to the civil rights, the women's rights movement, we're not going before then, and the LGBT fight as well. Okay, we done had to go through 3 fights just to be recognized, just to, because of these lovely categories in the division that you all want, for us to even be under the umbrella. And we shouldn't, because the umbrella should be the word humanity. And it shouldn't matter any of those things that I said at the beginning of the video. So we're fighting for things and places in society that we shouldn't have to fight for. Now, I seriously doubt, since Dr. Peterson used the word heathenism, I believe is the correct terminology he used. I highly doubt him, Ben Shapiro, and Tom MacDonald are virgins. If they are married, because I didn't even look that deep, I just listened to the song. I highly doubt it that they waited until they are married to give up the ghost. Now, judge least she not be judged. You don't judge me, I won't judge you. Okay. So we talked about pride a little bit. So some people need to find some pride. Okay. So we covered the sexes. He talked about that being a linguistic terminology. Yep, that would be wordplay. He talked about giving power when you use certain words. This is Dr. Peterson. When you put certain words in a song. I agree with him there. You should not. As far as they were calling some certain things out, but yeah, you are definitely giving power by using certain words. Now, I want to congratulate them. They did bring attention to a few things, and I have my own thoughts as a whole on some things, okay? So I'm going to actually press play on this, and we're going to listen, and I'm going to respond with some of the things that I wrote down briefly. By the way, if you are an studier of Orisha, which is a African, Caribbean, and Santeria type of religion, Oya wears a rainbow. Her symbolism is the rainbow skirt. If you practice tarot, Orisha tarot, she is on the card of the world card. In the Orisha Patikas, I want to say his name is Odimi in regards to the tarot cards. Yeah, the marketplace. And Oya is the goddess of rain and thunderstorms. Okay. All right. Which is important significance. And then her color, as far as her color in regards to her stone, would be the color purple. The color purple, which means royalty. And then also, normally when in regards to stones, I get the purple amethyst stones. Higher elevation, one of the 7 stones to put on your altar, if you have an altar, in regards to your meditation for chakra alignment. That's in my book, The Sacred Practices of the 7 African Power Sacred Practices for Beginning Practitioners, that I just got endorsed by New York Times bestseller J.L. King. Yeah, I'm going to be working at the computer after this to get them books under wrap with that endorsement. Now, I'm only going to do a little short clip of this because I think that's all we need is a little short clip of this. We don't need all 51 seconds and 50 minutes. You can listen to it on your own time. I'll make sure I post it in the comment section below. Let's go to the beginning.
As you may or may not know, although most people know if they're vaguely awake. Ben Shapiro and Tom MacDonald have the #1 song in the world at the moment. And it's very comical because it's a rap song. And just the idea of Ben Shapiro doing rap hip hop is comical in and of itself.
Ben has shown in his video that he does of reactions to his song. He don't know how to rap. They said just go slow at it when you are speaking. And then he has not been, from what I learned, a big he's not so pro for rap. So they took what is normally in the African community to do what they needed to do. They got to the #1 spot. And now, and I'm all about full joy. Like I said, they got some talent. They got it going on with that talent. But this was my first time ever hearing of them. But I think what I'd like to say is what they are doing currently right now. Happy Black History Month, is what has been done since before slavery in the U.S. Let's continue.
It's even more comical because he's been a critic of that particular genre. So it's very interesting to watch Ben step out of his presuppositions, let's say, and also his domain of previous competence, although he is a musician. Anyways, on with the analysis. Okay, well, the first thing we might point out here with regards to use of language is that Tom does use genders. And I think that's
I won't address it now because I already addressed it at the beginning of the video when I talked about the differences and what they use as far as division.
Actually, what would you say? That's an interpretive mistake because he should have used sexes. By using genders, he fell into the trap that the leftists have laid with regards to language utilization. They're very, very good at occupying the linguistic terrain. There are a variety of temperaments, and that's easy to get confused with gender, and that's part of the reason we have the problem we have. And sexes would have worked because it's also a 2-syllable word, and it's a minor critique, but in some ways, it seems pekeun, which means minor, but it isn't. It's more important than that, because if you let your political opponents gain the linguistic territory, then they win, right? You can't, once you use their words, they win. So that's something for everybody to keep in mind. You can't cancel my message because I'm
your energy. When you pass away from the earth, you do not die and go to a magical place. I need you to wake up, okay? Energy does not die. Energy recycles. Let's keep going.
Biggest independent rapper in the whole freaking world. And I'm racist, yeah, right. I'm unashamed because I'm white. If every Caucasian's a bigot, I guess every Muslim's a terrorist. Every liberal is right.
So, with regards to every Caucasian being a bigot and his claim that then, therefore, every Muslim is a terrorist and every liberal is right, which is, definitely not correct, especially if you're talking about the progressive mob. The fundamental problem with there's a variety of fundamental problems with the woke algorithm, reductive algorithm or ideology that Ben and Tom are criticizing. We did research back in 2016 looking at politically correct authoritarianism, and that was back when psychologists were just starting to analyze left-wing authoritarianism. And we found that the best predictors of being a left-wing authoritarian were being not verbally intelligent. That was a walloping predictor. It was the variable most closely associated with intelligence that I had ever seen, including grades. And so if you're not very bright, the woke ideology is very attractive to you. The second best predictor was being female. The third best predictor was having a female temperament. The fourth best predictor was ever having taken a course that had the woke ideology as a portion of it. Now
when our hierarchy here in America. Okay. When the Ankh, A-N-K-H, was in Egypt, and they went ahead and took the symbol and borrowed it for Christianity. They removed the feminine act. They tried it. They removed the feminine aspect when they brought it to Christianity. So the circle for the feminine representing the womb, the feminine energy, was removed, and then the male energy was left. Okay. All right. Also, what came to mind when he spoke on not being very verbally intelligent, plus grades and things of that nature, the book, The Dumbing Down of America, came to mind. But yes, again, it is about control. Let's keep going.
Building all over the world now that men and women's political beliefs are segregating. And so that's a reflection of the fact that this woke ideology is also a perversion of the basic female ethos. It's the extension of compassion far beyond its relevant domain. And it's an extension as a consequence of pride. So the women who are doing this, there's men who are doing it too, especially those that have a more feminine temperament. They're making the claim that their love is so encompassing that everything can be brought into the circle, right? Even the snake, and that's the eternal sin of Eve, by the way. So there's a group identification.
Y'all need to study snakes. I might have should have did a video on snakes, especially since Megan Thee Stallion's video represents cobra and snakes. Snakes are the symbolism of wisdom. Y'all got to do some research. When the snake was in the garden with Adam and Eve, I'm going to give you a different perspective than what you're used to. If you eat of this tree, the knowledge of good and evil, okay, all right. Eve ate from the tree. Hello. When she ate from the tree and her eyes become woke, this is just symbolism. It's only symbolism. She could not stay in the garden because she ate of the tree of life and the knowledge of good and evil. She couldn't stay there because we don't want you running back and telling the other slaves, since your eyes are open, what you have learned and what you are third eye and what you are now going to see. We can't have you disrupting the camp, causing chaos in the slave masters' camp. Snakes are wisdom. Let's keep going.
Justification claim, the fundamental claim essentially is the world can be divided into victims and victimizers. The victims are like infants. They're always good. They're always innocent. The victimizers are essentially predators. So you can see the feminine ethos in that. The problem with that is when you start to apply it to groups, you completely demolish the presumption of individual innocence. And there's no difference between the demolition of that presumption and the imposition of a totalitarian state. So now you might say there.
Now, I may not use a lot of fancy words. And that sounded really wonderful. It did, didn't it? Pimp ho. Okay, so the victim is the hoe. The pimp is the victimizer. Listen. The victims are the 99%. The victimizers are the 1%. I need you to reach, okay? Because he's talking about groups. The victims are no longer just Indian people or African American people or any other kind of race of different people separately in separate groups in regards to nationalities. The victims are 99% of the world. And the 1% who are the victimizers with the criminal minds that have put all of this loveliness together. Yeah. Unless you have done something that the victimizer likes because of the setup that we have going on, to be able to get out of the 99%. Let's keep going.
Can't be that much information in those few lines, but the whole point of poetry, with its reliance on imagery.
Now, I love what he said about poetry. I wrote it down. I emailed it to myself. I even took me a little clip note. So let's go.
Is to pack way more information into utterances than you could otherwise manage. And so a dense poem, which is the use of words to produce images, can have levels of meaning that are almost inexhaustible. That's partly why we remember poetry and poetic verse, let's say, image-laden poetic verse. We'll remember that for centuries because it's literally inexhaustible. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's like, well, a complex picture is worth a lot more than 1,000 words, and words can bring images to mind.
I don't want to talk to folks who don't get it. Go woke, go broke. No hope is pathetic.
Okay. Go woke, go broke. You know, it's a nice rhyme, but there's something there too. And what Tom is pointing to is that if you construe yourself as a victim and you develop and you have an external locus of control, that's the technical term from the psychology research literature, then you believe that you are nothing but a pawn of circumstances that are beyond your control. And you adopt the guise of powerlessness. Now, if you could gain a moral advantage from that, that's a secondary gain. That's how that would be interpreted from a psychoanalytic perspective. It's doing something that isn't good for you because there's a payoff. And so if you construe yourself as a victimizer, you only believe you're moved about by external forces. You won't develop a vision of your own. And that will mean that you're anxious and confused because you're being buffeted around by the winds of external forces. It'll mean you have no direction in your life, and that makes you hopeless. The combination of those two things will mean that you have no motivation. And the consequence of that, and we know this perfectly well because highly motivated people are much more likely to be economically successful. The consequence of that is that you won't have any money. And then, of course, you'll use that to
I'm going to let him finish.
buttress your claim to victim status, and then you're in a loop. That's the dragon that eats its own tail, by the way. That's a symbol of chaos. And then you're basically in hell. So I wouldn't recommend that, as a...
He said a lot. Okay. All right. For those who do listen to my videos, you know I don't believe in hell, but you can sell it. So the people in purgatory, okay, which would be the ones who believe they have no hope and cannot see light. The ones who are chasing their own tail, the dragon, so to speak, chasing his own tail. Purgatory. They don't see light, they don't see hope. They are the ones jumping off the bridge or staying where they're at or not trying to elevate or not trying to learn or not try to grow their skill sets. They are part of the 99% unless they find their independence in just ending the whole game altogether, okay? And then you got folks who are doing what he said they are doing. On the other end of the spectrum, they see a different payout playing by rules that are applied in the world illusion and the matrix to get where they need to go, to get the funds that they need to move about on this plane before reaching other dimensions. So you got the person who done jumped off a bridge. You got the person who is complacent. They have accepted that this is life. They're going to live it just like it is, in the predicament that it is, in whatever stress level that is, and not do anything about it. They're just they just happy to be alive. And then you got, I'm just going to use this as an example. So you got Sexy Red. Who's been on food stamps? Where the food stamp office then called her and said, or she done called and said, where are my food stamps? And they're like, we can't give you food stamps. You're making money off of rapping. You have operated within the metrics set up by the oppressor, slave owner, whatever you want to call them, to be able to move up the ladder to towards success. Okay, so we done got out the hole. We no longer doing paycheck to paycheck. They no longer stretching and reaching. We have done stuff. We have gotten out of the hole. We have gone to another level. That is just an example. Let's keep going.
Clinical psychologist, which I still am, by the way. So, all right, next line.
Pro-choice pronouns, pro-love, you're progressive. You ain't pro-gun, no one to protect you.
Okay, now here's something else to understand. So imagine that you're, compassionate in your basic ethos. So you have a more feminine temperament. You're high in agreeableness. Now, but you're also full of pride, and so you want to overclaim the utility of that and bring everything to you, clutch the poisonous serpent to your breast, as I pointed out. Okay, so what's the problem with that?
Clutch the wisdom to your breast. Keep going.
Well, this has been modeled very well, even computationally. We understand this. Make no mistake about that. So imagine you set up a society that's full of agreeable people who do nothing but cooperate. Fine, and they all get along, and that can be extraordinarily productive as long as people keep acting in that reciprocally altruistic manner, which means you treat someone well and they treat you well back. That can be extremely productive, and that's actually the basis of a productive society. One of the bases. It's not enough though, because you need enforcement, and that's why you need men with spines. And the reason for that is that if you have a whole community of cooperators and you drop one cheater into the mix, one shark, he will eat everything. And so you can see this. You see this happening, for example, when Seattle set up its progressive city. It took like 2 weeks before it was controlled by armed gangs. This exactly the same thing happened in Alberta recently, by the way, with all the tent cities. So as soon as you have a place of victimized people run by the hyper-compassionate, the bloody thugs move in, and then you better watch yourself. And if you think that's not, and then of course, if you're if you're prideful and hyper-compassionate, you're going to think, oh, the poor thugs, they just had it rough when they were children. You know, and look.
If we have you trained, teaching you how to think and not how to act, and you are a zombie, literally, then you will not realize what the criminal minds, the 1%, are doing to the 99%. Listen, this is not rocket science. I don't need a bunch of fancy words. I am not brainwashed. I can see very clearly. I just did a video on the internet blackout, war strategies 1 and war strategies 2 for overseas in Africa with this new malaria vaccine. Let's keep going. That is exactly what they're doing. Except they do like they do with the movies. They let you know what's coming. They doing it he's doing it. He don't even know he's doing it in this video. He's letting you know ahead of time what's going to be happening in the future.
A lot of them did, but I'll tell you something else about that, and that is that there's a lot of people who had it rough as children who don't turn into like psychopathic thugs. And all you hyper-compassionate people who are out there like feeling sorry for the criminals, you wait till they show up in your bloody house. You'll be thinking twice about that. And
their very intentions are to show up in your bloody house. Sorry to be the one to let you know it. That is their very intentions. Take you out completely, any means necessary, maybe or maybe not, leave your chillins here. That is the whole point of all the chaos. Let's keep going.
See no shortage of that on the victimized liberal side. People who get mugged out in the street after they defund the police and short circuit because, oh my God, look, I got attacked. It's like, yeah, well, you enabled the psychopaths, and I wouldn't recommend that. So that's what happens. Compassion, defund the police, no protection, rule by psychopath. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
Where the American flags at? Remember when people would hang though?
You know what? To be a African-American woman or person of color, dark skin color for that matter, living in America. Let's keep going. Y'all keep talking about this American flag.
They've been taken down. They all been replaced with BLM flags or a rainbow.
Okay, so the flag idea, man, that's a complicated idea. So the idea of a flag is something like the idea of a staff. And a staff, well, you have a staff if you run a business, and a staff is something you rely on. A staff is something that supports you. A staff is something that moves you forward. A staff is something that helps you find your way. A flag is a staff with a banner. And so the banner is something around which everyone can unite. A flag is a uniting symbol. Okay.
When I listened to this, I immediately thought of Moses when the staff was dropped and it turned into a snake. I also thought of when he held the rod up, he used his staff for different things. Now, I will not deny that the Bible is full of wisdom in regards to its stories that you can take and you can apply in life. So, yes, And he held it up and he divided the Red Sea. And they walked across. Let's keep going.
So what's a rainbow flag? Well, let's think about it. It's a flag of division, literally, because a rainbow is the division of a unity, what's white, into a plurality, what's a rainbow. And you can't have a unity of plurality. Well, you can in a world where a man can be a woman, you can have a unity of plurality. And I'll tell you, that's...
During Kwanzaa, and whatever you study, or religion that you believe in, or that you have decided to take up, that's fine, as long as you know that all of them are man-made. I would get the book that teaches you about indoctrination. The name of the book is called The Power of Higher Magic. It's been a minute since I've read it. Let's see here. Very informative. Let's see. I have to place it on my Amazon influencer page. The Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic. By Eliphas Levi. He did a lot of fast talking. What that he does in this book, and he is a poet and author of over 20 esoteric books. He began writing at 22 years of age, married at age 36, lived between 1810 and 1875. You can't let him get rid of history. That's how you learn. Let's go back. But it talks about the indoctrination and how they piece together pieces of religion, okay, to come up with Christianity as well as some other things. Let's keep going.
It's the reign of utter chaos. Now, we already pointed out that the reign of utter chaos brings in the psychopaths, the true oppressors, the real victimizers. And so, this pride flag, what would you say? Waving, this proclamation, this...
We are not bodies. We are energy in a body. These are simply our avatars. Hate is learned. It is time to unlearn hate.
Praying in the streets, this false moralizing is a way of, once again, proclaiming to the world that your compassion is so overwhelming and inclusive that you can love the whole world, and that's fine, except for the snakes. And, you can imagine why women do that, because in some ways they want to advertise to men that they're going to be good mothers, and that is what they're doing, even if they don't know it. And then you might ask, well, why would men do it? And I'll tell you what sort of men do that. The sort of men who do that have no masculine utility whatsoever. And so they ape feminine utility. They act like girls. That's a good way of thinking about it. Then they can be a friend. Well, hopefully a friend with sexual benefits, right? And so loser men use false compassion pridefully as a way of attracting stupid women. And they're particularly good at doing that if they're psychopathic. And the data on that are very clear because young women, especially naive young women, are much more likely to be sexually victimized by psychopaths and narcissists. And you might ask, well, how will the psychopaths and narcissists close themselves? And the answer is that they're not going to come out with shark teeth on, man, because then you know who they were. They're going to tell you how nice they are, how lovely they are, and how they care for everything in the world. It's like, you better take that with a grain of salt, because if you don't, you're going to pay for it. So we'll get back to that particular motif as
my publicist, the one who sold like 1.4, I want to say million for On the Down Low, went on, married, had kids, things of that nature. And I have dated, bi men, or I've had gay friends. Or I've had LGBT friends. And there are lines sometimes that are just never, for the majority part, never crossed. And to just assume that's what's going on. Okay. Now, what I will say in regards to what he talked about from my own personal experience, I can't speak for anybody else. But I did have to learn while dating but I had to learn while dating the actions and the wordplay and the mentality of people who are narcissistic. That was not fun. There's things I wish I had known then that I know now in regards to narcissism. Yes, and nobody told me, because I wasn't reading anything at the time, while I was dating or doing whatever, that the people I was with are narcissists. The words would just come to me like spiritual downloads. And I'd say, oh, what's that? And I'd go and I'd look it up and I'd see if that was something that was going on. That's what happens when you start practicing, when I started practicing other religions. So, but I'm glad to know the information that I do now, okay, in regards to how predators, how pimps operate. Let's keep going.
we progress.
This ain't rap, this ain't money, cars and clothes. We ain't selling drugs, we ain't gonna. Sometimes.
We went to a commercial, but you know what? It has not been that long since 1963. '64. That's what, 2024? $60 years. $60 years since the civil rights.
Pushing guns and promoting stripper poles. We won't turn your sons into thugs or your daughters into
Okay, sons into thugs and your daughters into hoes. Yeah, that's a great juxtaposition, all of that. So the first thing Tom is doing is singing about hedonism, right? And that's the pursuit of, say, easy sex and materialist markers of localized success, right? And so then you might say, well, what sort of people pursue short-term mating strategies, because that's the technical biological
Oh,
definition,
this is my part
who are
right
looking
here.
for easy sex, one-night stands, and who parade around their shell of materialism? And the answer is, we already talked about these people. We know this. Short-term mating preference is associated with the dark tetrad. Narcissism, so that's the desire for unearned social status. Machiavellianism, so that's the willingness to use manipulation to get what you want. Psychopathy, so the worst criminals are psychopaths, by the way. Psychopaths are predatory parasites. That's a bad combination. Now, first of all, those were the only 3 traits that were studied, but that didn't work out very well because it turned out there was a missing variable, and that was sadism. So if you're a psychopathic, narcissist, Machiavellian, you also end up wanting to hurt other people for your own pleasure. And those are the people who are engaging in the hedonistic strategy, right? Short-term pleasure. You see this, and they're the ones that will enslave you. You see this in the Disney movie Pinocchio. It's beautifully portrayed because the little
Sir, need I remind you I'm an African American, dark-skinned woman living in this country. I don't need to watch Pinocchio grow his nose, baby. I've got my entire history. For what? The people who came for you, put you on the ship, threw food at you for you to share. You were malnourished when you got there upon arrival, beat you, took advantage of you, watched you and the baby go over off the shore, got you to the land, cleaned you up, oiled you down, put barely anything on you. You were damn near naked, and sold you off to the highest bidder. Let's make America great again, shall we? Not.
what would you say? Waving this proclamation, this praying in the streets, this false moralizing.
We need to repeat it.
Is a way of, once again, proclaiming to the world that your compassion is so overwhelming and inclusive that you can love the whole world. And that's except for the snakes. And, you can imagine.
In 60 years, that's a lot of mental brainwashing and manipulation. African Americans since the Civil War haven't owned that many record company businesses. We just now starting to get a little land. Starting to get out there with our arts and get a little something. Some of us. within them 60 years. We are just now starting to get some, to possibly even get some change. Who do you think have been over things within them 60 years? Mainly. Hell, it wasn't us. You know, we're not going to sit here and we are not going to act like. Now, I did listen to the interview that Talib was in, okay, where he was given the best defense and offense that he could, I suppose. Maybe he could have did better. But yeah, it's about suppression. It's about control. We already knew that they're just doing what people who win the war do. Okay? They're just doing what the 1%, the criminally minded, well, they're playing the survival game, and they are doing a phenomenal job of playing the survival game by any means necessary. Okay, the pimp is doing what the pimp is supposed to do. And if the hoe don't want to be a hoe, she's got to learn, or he's got to learn, strategic strategies and a new skill set, or whatever they need to do for survival, to get out of the hoe position and get into the pimp position. Listen, I don't need them to apologize to me. Talib was requesting an apology. I'm glad I learned about Ben and Tom and Jordan. I had never just subscribed to Jordan this morning since I'm listening to it with you all now. Yeah. Since the survivalists are doing what they're supposed to do, they're not going to give you 49 acres in a mule. Sex, drugs, alcohol, all that sells. They're all about their coins. We all know it. That's how they set it up. The only difference now is that it's not just people of color who are slaves. Everybody's enslaved. Okay? So you are now feeling the my Caucasian friends. You are now feeling a result of what happened from that type of mentality, since it no longer enslaved just people of colors and took all the races with them. Inadvertently, offhandedly. But that's something folks that look like me have been dealing with all this time. No breaks. All right, that sums it up for how I felt about that video. Just a brief reminder that you vote. When you vote on a video and you hit the like or you hit the comment or whatever else you do, thank you for those of y'all who have been sharing my material. That is how you vote. So if you vote for ridiculousness, guess what's gonna pop up? More than stuff that needs to be out there, I guess, or by the moral and compass that they're saying. More ridiculousness is gonna pop up. If you vote for something a little bit more conservative, I love that one was conservative and one was wild when they did the video. Then, as far as their artistry and their artwork, they kicked ass, literally. And for that, from 1964, actually before then, till now, Tom and Ben are the result. Good job, America. Yeah, woke Karen. All right, it's been lovely. I'm going to get started on the signs of money here in just a minute. I'm wrapping this up. Mwah. And thank you for tuning in.